It's not lost on me at all that you are living creatively, otherwise you wouldn't be here. And you're supporting artists like me. And I feel like myself straddling over learning what you do. And I think I want to become a part of it here. I don't know if that's allowed, artists to be both. But what you're doing, I don't think it's lost on you, but it's really immeasurable and important what you're doing. So many artists, like Cole, for example, when the creation process is so often isolated, especially for a composer, that you think about things. You're not doing art with people, unless you're doing choreography, perhaps, or you're doing theater, right? There's so many kinds of art, but for a musical art, it's a little bit different. And so where, let's see if I'm working here. All right, it is working. So first I thought maybe let's define what a general consensus might be as what creativity is. And this is also many artists' reason for doing art, to display and give to the world a new sense of what the world is. That's why I compose. I don't compose so I can rock my booty. I don't compose so I can rock yours. I compose personally because there's a lot of mystery in the world, and I want to reveal it to myself, and in so doing, reveal it. And I think it's fun and useful and healthy and progress somehow. And I think a lot of artists feel that way. I think a lot of contemporary classical artists like me do, especially. But I don't know how you feel about that, but revealing something about the world. You're revealing something about the world if you want to consider the creative act of granting, right? You're asking the world, and then you're revealing something to the world too. So where Cole, I love Cole. So Cole is like this conductor of people and lives and interests and hearts. He brings them together, where I find myself, and I would like you to consider the more lone artist, who we are as people by ourselves. Kind of the opposite, right? Of just what is it like to be you? What is it like to be me? So my journey starts, at least, I mean, I've been a composer all my life. I do a lot of orchestra, I did a lot of commercial stuff. But later on, I met this guy named Terry Olson. And then Terry gave me a call and he said, hey, I've got these carillons, and could you think you can find a way to write music that'll go with the carillons in town? And oh, wow, it's outside? That's pretty cool. I said, no, there isn't, because we met for lunch, and the carillons were really, really quiet. You couldn't even hear them across the street with all the traffic. So I thought, well, maybe all kinds of ideas were going. So it was kind of a problem solving at first. And then,
so that's like bell towers.
Oh yeah, that's church bell towers. Mm-hmm. And so what I asked him is, well, what if we put musicians on the tops of buildings? And then if they're brass instruments, they'll be loud enough if you're in the right place, and if we collect the buildings close enough, right? So that was the next part. And then the next part was, well, the problem is that sound only moves at about 750 miles an hour, and it's going to take some time to get from this building to this building. So how about this? How about I time the musical entrances and performances from each building on their own time scale, and then we'll have everyone stand in a certain place in the town, and it'll all come together at the same time, right? So all the notes will arrive, they'll pass by the listener, and they will synchronize. So that's the first project. It was called Inspire, and here's a little of it. So we still have carillons and bells. We pretty much got the whole city going. Right? This was in a church steeple that's down the street, actually, on Pine. This is the library. I can't remember what this building, the Aspire building or something, got musicians way up there. So if you were in the park, at Washington, we call it Washington Park, it's the end of Washington Street, then it all comes together and you'll see that's here. And when we're looking way down, like 1,200 feet down to the parking deck. So that was fun. It's like, oh, that really works. So it got me on a new idea of like, well, what if we had these musicians going, but let's say that we had people walk, right? So if they were on this side, it would be a different order. And then if they were up here, it would be a different order again, even if these things are the same notes that were played. So the idea then for this was they wouldn't be playing normal music. This one, I would have all the horns, all the sound sources, I won't tell you what they are yet, but the sound sources would all be playing the same thing all the time, over and over and over. And as you change your location, you're gonna get a different sequence, right? So I called it distance music now. And what I did instead of buildings, I made it swan boats on the lake. You guys seen the swan boats out here? So every swan boat is like, well, what in the world is loud enough to be heard over 25 acres? Train horns. So the train horn manufacturer, one of the big ones, Nathan, said, sure, what a cool idea. Here's a pile of them. So they gave me a pile of train horns, and this is how it works. So we have the big Lake Eola, which you've probably seen. It's a beautiful park, and it's a 0.9 trail all the way around. So the audience was going to walk all the way around it, and they would get different aspects of these constantly firing horns. Now, I knew that would be really kind of boring. Even if you love minimalism, it was a little bit minimal. So I hired 30 musicians from the orchestra, different places. And they're all brass musicians, and they had their own scores and their own conductors, and everything was synced together. So this is what happened. So this is some mock-up that's mixed in. But that's some view of what it was. So I built the telemetry, and these are running on, this version was running on nitrogen gas. So you're hearing the music that would be coming from about right there on the shore. But if you walked, it would be a different series of patterns. Okay, I don't want to spend way too much time on this, but okay. Then here's another one. This was at Immerse. This was 4 musicians and 5 horns. So, there. It was a little crowded. You didn't get that much distance out of it, but you did. It was really fun. All right. Then there was a couple that didn't quite happen.
Audiences begin their musical journey.
This might explain a little bit.
The urban amphitheater. 100 feet is what I call the primary interval of this piece. At 80 degrees Fahrenheit, sound waves will travel this 100 feet in 88 milliseconds. 88 milliseconds is also the length of a 16th note at a tempo of quarter note equals 171. 600 feet to the northeast is Point East, which is the first destination point to where the audience will walk. East is 526 milliseconds distant from west, which is the same as 6 16th notes in a row.
Hope that makes sense, right?
The distance organ is placed only on locations that are primary intervals.
That's the train horns. Train horns are the distance organ.
West will get chords when all the horns play at once. East will get a scale. At 0 milliseconds, all 7 horns are playing their loud, short notes, but you haven't heard anything yet.
Assuming you're
That's because
here
the sound waves
or
haven't
here.
reached you. 88 milliseconds after the horns and the distance organ played, the first sound wave has made it to the listeners standing at East. It's the note C4. The audiences at West haven't heard anything yet. A lot happens at the 175 millisecond mark. At West, 3 notes sound waves pass at the same time that make a G minor triad. At the very same time, East listeners only hear an E flat. They can't hear the G minor chord that the others hear. At 263 milliseconds, the people at East hear an F. At 351 milliseconds, again, only East gets a sound. At 439 milliseconds, the audience at West hears 4 notes at once, spelling out an F7 chord, because F, A, C, and E flat are all equidistant. The audience at East hear the A only from the distance organ. All sound waves of the distance organ have already passed through West after this 526 millisecond mark, but East listeners have not yet heard 2 horns, B flat from 600 feet, and then D from 700 feet. In real time, if the distance organ plays every note simultaneously, then the audience at West will hear 2 chords. And in the same moments, like this to the audience at East. With each step, audiences will hear a slight change in the timing.
Okay, so you get the idea, hopefully, how that constructs. And to make it work and be fun, I had 10 jazz musicians jamming. No scores, just wander around and have fun, right? Then we're talking about Fusion Fest. I got a couple opportunities to do Fusion Fest. Now, what you're gonna have to listen for is way over on the other side are a whole bunch more trumpets. There's 7 different locations brass are, and then the audience is hearing it all at the same time. All right, so anyway, I don't want to spend too much more time on this, but I do want to, oops, wrong way.
For this piece,
All right. This was the most recent one. This was done at Full Sail's parking lot, and this I laid over image-wise, but this is a sacred 7 circle, right, called the Circle of Life, and basically I put 3 brass bands, right? Each had 9 players. There's one, there's one, there's one. And then I had 6 train horns. There's 2 here. They're all at these big intersection points, right? And then I wrote music to sync it all together. I built telemetry so I would be broadcasting with my laptop from my back, and I could wander around and make sure everything's okay. And then each of these groups had a conductor. Anyway, it rained that day, so my crowd was a little bit smaller than I hoped, but here's a little bit of, there's no sound yet. I haven't put this together yet, but you get an idea of what it was. Okay, so my most recent one that I'm...
Can I ask a quick question about that?
Yeah.
This music, did you ever use a parabolic wall to project sound?
No, but that's a really good idea. Yeah.
Like a headlight?
Yeah. Yeah, did you see those,
That's what made me think.
you see what these things?
Yeah, they're,
Yeah, I got band shells.
Yeah.
They're really tall, and it kind of did that.
that's what made me think of it.
Yeah, I mean, acoustics are so cool. So maybe just a laser narrow beam. I don't know.
I also have a question.
Yeah.
Are you an engineer?
It's totally amateur. Yes, I code and I build and do the circuits and yeah. It's like a creative life. People, because haven't done an orchestra piece for a while. I'm waiting for a commission, right? So people might ask, well, why are you going back and teaching at UCF this year? Because I love teaching. So, when you retire, you do what you want, right? Isn't that what you're supposed to do? And so I'm doing all these things and all these projects. I'm learning coding and I'm learning I'm learning a lot. So in this one that I'm doing next, this tree music, I'm have high hopes for this financially because I think it's going to sell at museums really, really well and theme parks. That I'm measuring all the different voltage from trees because there's a lot, and many of them are from the actual tree itself, and it's a lot more voltage than you think. And some come from like when the stomata, the leaves open, when the wind blows, it changes another voltage. I can measure that, the light, the humidity, all these different aspects. So imagine this, you're gonna walk into a wood and you hear this beautiful, sounds like a string orchestra. I'll probably use string samples. And each tree will have its own note. And the note will fluctuate according to the sun, how much water it's pulling up. The wind, so many aspects that you can measure because the trees have spirit, right? And spirit is energy that you can't see. We're all full of spirit. That's how I like to think of spirit. It's the stuff you don't see that makes things move. Trees are full of energy. And so every tree is going to have its voice. So I'll hopefully finish this year. And already there's a bunch of people interested, so high hopes. Okay, so what I would like to share with you is how you can increase creativity. And so what would you use that for? Well, you could use it just practically, like when you have a problem to solve. But I think that living creatively is enough. Like, how do you deal with every day? And there are many different facets. And one of the things you'll learn from the artists that are around, that all of us that practice most every day, is that you get good. You get used to being creative and how it works for you, right? And I'm going to share some of the things that are science-based with you. Everyone has their own way, but with you know. So the first thing you got to know is that your health is sort of the structure of the basis of where you get your creativity from. And there's this aspect called coherence that is now pretty well scientifically accepted, that it's always implied harmony and connectedness and stability, right, and efficiency, but coherence is a special case between your heart and your mind and the rest of your body. And when we're reading our heart rates and our heart rate variability, just even the heart rate, just a standard straight off the heart, if it's really jagged, especially the heart rate variability, that is our typical, not terribly coherent way of living, right? When you can establish coherence, things are they move up and they down. This is heart rate variability. Heart rate variability is the time between heartbeats, okay? It's not the heart rate. It's very different. And I would like you to experience how you get this. So let's start with this little exercise here. So I would like you to close your eyes, and I would like you to put your hand on your heart. And I'm going to read this, basically what this says. This is a very easy way to get coherence. Focus your attention in the area of your heart. Imagine your breath is flowing in and out of your heart or chest area. Breathe a little slower and a little deeper than usual. Focus your attention in the area of the heart. Imagine your breath is flowing in and out of your heart. Breathe a little slower. Breathe a little deeper. So if I was reading your heart coherence, this happens every time, sometimes I do this with groups, you would see the heart rate variability and the coherence moving up. It's a 0.1 hertz signal that we're looking for. I know it's really cool and really kind of new science, but what you're doing will bring coherence. So that's the first thing. So let's move on. So I'm going to run through these really quick. So there's the emotional body, mental. Come on. All right. Yep, physical and spiritual. Connection to others, connection to nature, commitment to values, tolerance. Okay, so here's some of the brain stuff. So dopamine has everything to do with creativity. That probably doesn't surprise you, except we usually think of dopamine hits and all that stuff. I don't know how accurate that is, but dopamine is a really powerful molecule, and it floods the brain. It's actually a really important part of thinking all the time. It's not just a happy drug, right? So I'm going to first talk about this kind of area, this kind of thinking. Creativity that we're looking for happens in two main areas. Cool with that? I'm going to talk about both of them. And then that'll be basically what I'm presenting today. I'll be done. So the first one is called divergent thinking, right? And the divergent thinking that we're talking about, if I can get my system to work here. Oh, I'm going the wrong way. I'm not used to using my phone. There we go. So down here at the base of the spinal cord, as it meets the brain, is this really cool little area, right? And what that area is also is about body movement. So right there, moving your body makes your mind happy. It brings up dopamine. Just movement. And it's curious. Oh no, I did it again. I'm sorry. Come on. Got to go to the left. There's this thing called a pathway, a particular pathway that brings it into this specific area of the brain. There we go. Oh my gosh, that was interesting. All right. That brings it up into this area that's called the striatus, right? And this area, I want us to practice. So what this area is we call it mind walking, right? And so we'll think of an object, think of a thing. Let's say well, I have a picture. I want you to practice this. So what's wonderful about this thing is this divergent thinking style is I want you to just, whatever comes to mind, and I want you to have no judgment about it, just walk through your memories, eyes closed, after you look at the image, and you think about what's happening in this image. Okay with that? And here's the image. So look at the image, close your eyes, and just come up with some stories behind what this is what's happening here. And what would really help is if you got up and paced. I'm not going to ask you to do that because it would be a big train wreck. But just thinking about moving is probably just enough. Right? No judgments, just be a little crazy if you want. Someone want to offer a story? Let's start a story. What's happening here, these two kids? Yeah.
The young man on the left there just leveled up.
Yeah, he just leveled up. Cool.
I was thinking, like, what really thrills kids, and so I was thinking maybe they were watching an animal do something. And then when you said to think about movement and walking around, I did that, and then I thought, well, they're very surprised cry, so it must be something shocking. So then I thought a dog that was like suspended up in the air, attached to like a million balloons.
Wow, now that's divergent thinking. And that's what we want. We want to go just, it doesn't have to follow the rules of physics, right? It doesn't have to be, what were you thinking?
I kind of imagined it was like two adults who just figured something out and like turned into kids, and that's why they're so excited. They just cracked the code.
Yay!
Yeah, that's the
Here's another one. It's pretty odd, but there's a story behind this one. So go ahead and close your eyes, and I want you to think about whatever comes to the surface. Just give it time. You know, children are really good at this because they don't have a self-story yet. So many artists have a self-story about whether they're good enough or whether their art's good enough, about the competition. Kids don't have that. And so kids are really, really good at this. So I want you to be childlike. I want you to think like a child, think childlike. Being aware of your breath, being aware of your body, being aware of your butt on the chair. You've been on a chair a lot. Being aware of as many things as you can. Mix it in with this divergent quality of just, you know, one of the things that I think is really beautiful about divergent that I thought was great. Do you remember when you were a kid and you would go into the library to get a book? I don't know, hopefully you guys were in libraries too. And then, so you got the book, but then you started wandering around the library and just picking books at random that looked good. And you just enjoy, and then sometimes you'd like those books way more than the ones you came for, right? That's divergent thinking. To wander through your memories and your experiences. Any ideas what's happening here?
They're traveling to 1953.
Yeah, you gotta know that one. I didn't want to shirt that felt like an idiot, but I was thinking to myself, this guy's a time cop because of what Bud cuts. Now, and so
In a luggage cart.
every time he takes the trip, you know, it's getting pretty dicey, man.
That's awesome.
This is the dream guide. So that's the bed. And every time you go to sleep, he takes you on your dream guide.
Oh man, that's a novel already. Yeah.
I thought I was in one of my friends, and the other one I paid this guy $50 to beat the other guy in the race.
You're losing. But he's behind someone. You got a chance. The other side is called convergent thinking. So it's divergent. So what do you think convergent is? Convergent, right, is where we're converging all our ideas and problem solving. This is where craft comes in. This is where experience and craft come in. This is when you need coffee. Coffee is really bad for divergent thinking. So don't drink coffee yet. Now's the time to drink coffee. Give 20 minutes to the first one and 20 minutes to this one, right, on this task. And I think that what we're looking for is 1 to 3 milligrams per kilogram of your body weight. That's the healthiest amount of coffee. You can overdo it. So, all right, so in this one, we are, there's a channel, this is called the mesocortical pathway instead, and this one is actually going closer to the frontal lobes, and it is much more focused thinking. So this one requires focus and persistence, hence the coffee. You're going to be filtering out the impractical. This is where you're down to earth. You're going through all these divergent ideas that have been listed and thought about and remembered, written down. Again, it's a dopamine thing. So we're learning how to control the brain here is what this is, right? Dopamine's going to happen anyway, right? And if this way we are having some control on what we're doing with our body chemistry. And it is a way to, enhance creativity, and it really works. It is a real thing. So this one, convergent thinking, I don't need to tell you what that really is about. But that's all I have for you. So thank you for listening, and thanks for inviting me, Terry.